What if everything you believed in was manipulated by the people you trusted the most? How far would you go to expose the truth? Can one person, driven by anger and revenge, really change history? Or will their rage destroy everything in its path? And finally, is being a hero about perfection, or is it about standing up and fighting for what's right, even when you're broken inside? Thaddeus Ross is celebrated as the new president of the United States, but his daughter Betty still holds a grudge over his past mistakes, despite his team's efforts to contact her. In his acceptance speech, Ross reflects on the nation's pivotal election. He mentions the chaos of half of humanity disappearing and the massive celestial event in the ocean, acknowledging the uncertainty of times. He stresses that unity is the only way forward. Soon after, the media dives into his troubled past, criticizing his obsession with the Hulk and his questionable actions. Ross insists he's changed, but meanwhile, Sam Wilson watches the broadcast and sees Ross has become president with Betty. 5 months later, in Oaxaca, Mexico, Joaquin Torres teams up with sent by President Ross. Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres are tasked with stopping the theft of a mysterious container, with strict orders to keep its contents a secret. When they arrive at the meeting spot, Cap bursts in and quickly takes down. The priest stood tall, his eyes blazing with defiance. "We will never betray our faith," he said, his voice steady. The villain's Captain America springs into action. Serpent Leader orders his men to take him down while he secures the package. Joaquin Torres spots Serpent Leader fleeing with the package, alerting Sam. Determined, Cap pursues and confronts Serpent Leader. Joaquin Torres successfully recovers the package, ensuring the mission's success. Elsewhere, President Ross visits the grave of Karen Lee Ross, honoring a promise he made to his daughter Betty. Though their relationship is still fractured, Ross deeply cares for Betty and is trying in his own way to make amends. His assistant, Lila, asks if he's spoken to her yet, but Ross sighs and admits he pieces together and realizes the buyer planned to double-cross Serpent Leader. The buyer paid $50 million to have the container secretly rerouted to Japan, where he was supposed to collect it. Later, Sam Wilson meets up with Joaquin Torres, who asks for advice on how to become a worthy successor to the Falcon Mantle. To help him, Sam takes Joaquin to meet Isaiah Bradley, hoping he can train under someone who embodies what it means to be a true hero, with no super soldier serum involved. Sam receives a call from President Ross and steps away to answer, while Isaiah watches, clearly unimpressed. When Sam returns, Isaiah doesn't hold back, calling him out for taking orders from Ross and reminding him of the president's past actions. Sam explains that he's not blindly following orders. Staying close to the White House allows him to keep an eye on Ross and protect people if things go wrong. He also has an ally inside who will warn him if Ross makes any reckless moves. After their conversation, Sam mentions that he's been invited to the White House to be recognized for the mission, with Joaquin joining him as a thank you. Sam invites Joaquin to come along and encourages him to wear his own suit, saying it would be an honor to have him there. After a moment of hesitation, Isaiah agrees. Later that night, Sam, Joaquin, and Isaiah arrive at the White House and walk through the halls. Isaiah can't help but make a sarcastic remark about how strange it feels to be inside the bee's house before moving on. The three of them snap a selfie to capture the moment, unaware that security cameras are recording every detail of their arrival. Later, Sam is called into President Ross's office, where Ross thanks him for recovering the container, saying it will help finalize the treaty he's been pushing for. Then, out of nowhere, he drops a bombshell. He wants Captain America to help rebuild the Avengers. Sam doesn't flinch, reminding Ross that he was the one who tore the team apart in the first place, so putting them back together won't be easy. But Ross insists it's necessary, arguing that the Avengers represent the nation, and without them, half the population wouldn't have survived the last few crises. He asks Sam to think it over before he leaves. Ross introduced to the most influential figures in the room, solemnly declaring that the celestial mass has emerged from the ocean and, after decisive action, they've made the most significant discovery of the modern era. He explains that the material they discovered is stronger than vibranium and is called adamantium. Ross reveals that the recovered container held a portion of this valuable metal, and thanks to the successful mission carried out by two exceptional men, Joaquin Torres and Captain America Sam Wilson, they now have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The future of the international community depends on how they handle this discovery. Ross explains that if nations agree to work together, adamantium could be distributed fairly, benefiting everyone. But in the middle of his speech, gunfire erupts, plunging the event into chaos. Out of nowhere, Isaiah Bradley opens fire, shocking everyone. Guests and officials scatter, running for cover while security rushes to contain the situation. Without hesitation, Sam and Joaquin chase after Isaiah, but they're not alone. A police squad is right behind them. Eventually, they corner him. Understanding the seriousness of the situation, Sam pleads with Isaiah not to run, warning that things will only get worse if he does. He begs him to surrender peacefully, but with no other choice, Sam heads straight to President Ross. Sam finds Ross in a room surrounded by agents, but his focus is on fighting for Isaiah. Seeing Sam's determination, Ross dismisses the agents, though he allows his security advisor, Ruth, to stay. Sam defends his friend, insisting there's no way Isaiah acted alone and suggesting someone may have manipulated him. Ross responds coldly, stating that maybe Isaiah did act on his own, and that Sam needs to stop being blind just because they're friends. Ruth chimes in, pointing out that Isaiah wasn't the only one firing shots. The Secret Service and the military also opened fire, suggesting a perfectly coordinated terrorist attack. Sam pushes back, arguing that Isaiah didn't even know where he was when they arrested him. He asks Ross to let him help with the investigation, but with a cold, detached tone, the president tells him he's already sacrificed too much for the country and isn't willing to risk anything more. That's when Ruth drops an uncomfortable truth. More to say, Ross gives Ruth full authority over the investigation and, with a dismissive wave, signals for Sam to leave. Just harder than any accusation, not just because of the tone, but because of what it implies. A reminder that in Ross's eyes, he's still someone who can be spoken down to. Determined to get to the truth, Sam Wilson heads over to see Isaiah Bradley and find out what really happened. Isaiah swears he'd never do something like that, and admits he doesn't understand why he acted the way he did that night. With a tense expression, he explains that his day was completely normal. He stopped by the barber shop, picked up his suit, and then went to the White House with them. But from the start, he had a bad feeling about it. Isaiah hesitates before speaking, remembering everything clearly. When they arrived, they took the selfie, but then something strange happened. His phone just stopped working. After that, they were escorted to the East Room, and the next thing he knew, he was sitting in the park with no memory of how he got there. Sam listens intently, reassures him, and tells him he believes in his innocence. Together, they'll find out the truth. But Isaiah resigns himself, telling Sam that guilty or not, there's no way out this time. He knows they'll convict him, and he'll spend the rest of his days locked up. If Sam really wants to help, the only thing he can do is walk away. Meanwhile, Ruth interrogates the agent who allowed Sam to speak with Isaiah, while Sam and Joaquin begin piecing things together and realize Isaiah was likely manipulated using auditory control. Possibly through hidden signals in music, they realize something similar happened to the snipers who opened fire at the White House. On her end, Ruth reaches the same conclusion after reviewing classified reports. Later, Sam discusses the situation with Joaquin and lays out a troubling theory. Someone wanted them at the White House that night. Why would they hire Serpent Leader if the buyer was never going to show up? Was it all just a setup to get them there? A sudden assault interrupts his thoughts, bullets whizzing toward him. The shooter is none other than Gustavo Fring, his aim unerringly precise. He fired, certain the job was done. Grabbing Sam's phone, he reported the target eliminated, then prepared proof. But Captain America, always one step ahead, charged. Surprised but composed, Fring smirked. "My bio predicted this," he said. "If Cap survived, you'd talk first, 75% chance." He was right. Fring rose and landed a punch, initiating a chase, mocking Sam's gearless helplessness. But Cap's instincts were sharp. In a swift move, Sam blindsided him, delivering a brutal blow. Fring, near death, chuckled bitterly. Fring tells Sam he did well taking him down, but warns him that he won't like what's coming next. Meanwhile, in an entirely different setting, President Ross is in the midst of crucial talks with world leaders, attempting to finalize the Adamantium Treaty. But the atmosphere shifts quickly as tensions rise. The leaders question how they can trust his leadership when he can't even maintain control over his own country. The room grows colder when someone points out the missing element. The Prime Minister of Japan, a key player in the deal, is conspicuously absent. His absence speaks volumes. Japan isn't willing to sign. With uncertainty hanging in the air, the international leaders decide to suspend negotiations, warning Ross that if he fails to regain Japan's trust, they'll proceed without him. Pressure mounts, threatening his administration. He's found Ruth's secret. Born in Israel, Red Room trained, a Black Widow. He warns Sam not to underestimate her. Reviewing footage, they find Isaiah spared Ross. Suspicious, Joaquin traces Stern's last call to Camp Echo 1. Sam tells him to prep. They're going in together. Ruth meets an agent, only to watch him eliminate snipers and then himself, his radio repeating a tune. She moves Isaiah. Ross, informed of Sam and Joaquin's departure, orders their interception. Cooper, Isaiah's warden, tries to call the president, but the call turns chilling. A gunshot rings out, followed by a voice cutting through the line. One Ross knows all too well. Samuel Stearns speaks with his... But now things have changed. Now Stearns is the one calling the shots. He promises that what's coming next will be far worse. By the time it's over, the entire world will despise Ross, especially his daughter, Betty. Alarmed, Ross immediately contacts Ruth, who's in the middle of transferring Isaiah. He orders her to abandon the mission and head to Camp Echo 1 instead. Things have escalated dangerously. Meanwhile, Sam and Joaquin arrive at the camp, maneuvering through layers of traps. But once inside, they're met with eerie silence. No prisoners, only a sense of complete abandonment. As they push forward, they uncover something far more unsettling: a hidden lab, a research facility operating inside what was supposed to be a prison. That's not just unusual, it's deeply suspicious. Digging deeper, they discover records confirming that Isaiah was once held there, which only raises more questions. Back in Japan, Ross finally meets with the Prime Minister. He pushes the idea that sharing adamantium with the world is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But the Prime Minister isn't convinced. He's received troubling intelligence. Ross's real plan was to steal the metal from the container. Ross forces a tense smile, trying to brush off the accusation. He argues that if he truly wanted to steal the adamantium for himself, he would never have sent Captain America to retrieve it. But the Prime Minister remains resolute, his tone firm as he tells Ross that Japan will not be part of his treaty. He warns Ross that if he's considering taking matters into his own hands, he'd better tread carefully. Meanwhile, Sam continues searching through the lab and stumbles upon an unsettling note. 3 pills a day, do not exceed the dosage. Something about it doesn't sit right with him. Meanwhile, Joaquin digs deeper into the music used for mind control and uncovers a shocking truth. The song Mr. Blue contains a hidden frequency designed to manipulate anyone who hears it. Using his quick thinking, he alters the signal, effectively neutralizing its effects. That's when the mystery man steps out from the shadows, Samuel Stearns. No hesitation, he outright admits to hiring Serpent Leader to steal the container, but his real objective was to kill Ross. His voice hardens with resentment as he recounts his story. He tells Sam that Ross threw him in prison without trial, and after the gamma radiation accident altered his brain permanently, the government secretly used him for 6 years. Ross, ruthless as ever, exploited his intelligence to claim the presidency. All the while, he fed Stearns the same empty promise. Once he had power, he'd set him free. But once Ross got what he wanted, he abandoned Stearns without a second thought. Sam tries to reason with him, explaining that his actions are dragging Isaiah into this mess, and that if Stearns keeps going down this path, more innocent people will get hurt. But Stearns remains unmoved. He believes Ross is beyond redemption. Stopping now, in his mind, would be the real mistake. Without warning, he uses his mind control to turn a squad of soldiers against Sam and Joaquin before calmly making his exit. The two heroes fight with precision, taking down soldier after soldier, but the wave of enemies never seems to end. Just as it looks like they're overwhelmed, Ruth crashes into the scene. Reluctantly, she joins the fight, moving with lethal efficiency, cutting through the attackers with deadly precision. Her skill leaves no doubt she's a Black Widow. With the threat neutralized, the 3 of them retreat fast. Ruth suggests that if Stearns escaped recently, he can't have gone far. They need to set up a perimeter and track him down. But before they can act, the soldiers guarding the perimeter close in, arresting them under direct orders from President Ross. Sam and Joaquin already know what's coming. The second the soldiers hear the music, their demeanor shifts instantly. Stearns takes control, exploiting the distraction. Ruth frees them, and together they escape before the situation can spiral any further out of control. Meanwhile, in Japan, Ross makes a drastic decision. If he can't convince them to share the adamantium, he'll take it by force. His agent, Taylor, warns him of the dire consequences, telling him that invading Japan would trigger a war beyond imagination. But Ross is resolute, no longer listening. His mind is made up. Back in the States, Sam, Joaquin, and Ruth turn to an unlikely ally, Serpent Leader. Once they track him down, Sam demands a private conversation. With a firm voice, he reminds Serpent Leader of their last meeting, where he was told he would find the man who wasted his time. That man was Samuel Stearns. Intrigued, Serpent Leader agrees to talk, but only if Sam agrees to total unity. With few options left, Sam agrees to hear him out. And that's when the truth is finally revealed. Serpent Leader discloses that his old unit discovered Stearns years ago, seeing his condition and prescribing him a specific dosage of medication to keep his mind stable. However, Ross deliberately increased the dosage to control Stearns, using him as a tool in his rise to power. Like everyone else, Ross fed him the same lie. Once he became president, he'd set him free. But as always, Ross lied. There's more. Ross secretly funded Serpent Leader through a hidden bribe fund. Now seeking revenge, Stearns has been playing the long game, manipulating everything to force Ross into starting a war, ensuring his ultimate downfall. The most alarming part, Stearns has developed technology that allows him to control anyone. Realizing he can't waste another second, Sam heads straight for the White House. It's time to confront President Ross. When confronted with a direct question whether he's been feeling different lately, Ross finally comes clean. The truth is unsettling. Stearns has been controlling him. According to the records, Ross visited Camp Echo 1 several times. Pressed for more answers, Ross admits his health was in critical condition due to solution, a set of pills keeping him alive. In exchange, Ross granted him the lab at Camp Echo 1. Ross couldn't risk losing his only hope of survival. But that's not all. After the destruction caused by the Hulk, someone had to take the fall, and Stearns became collateral damage. Despite everything Ross has done for the country, the one person who matters most, his daughter Betty, has never forgiven him. That's why he's been holding on, trying to prove he can still be a good man. Their conversation is abruptly cut short by an urgent report. 2 agents, brainwashed by Stearns' music, have opened fire on the Japanese fleet. Though Queen managed to disable the signal, the damage has already been done. In crisis mode, Ross orders Sam and Joaquin to defend the Japanese forces and prevent retaliation. Desperate to contain the conflict, Ross urges the Japanese Prime Minister to believe the troops were mind-controlled. But the Prime Minister refuses to trust him. Meanwhile, Stearns tightens his grip on Ross, whispering that the pills are working, but it's anger that's truly consuming him. Ross realizes he no longer needs the pills, only to embrace who he is, but deep down, both know he'll never stop taking them. On the battlefield, Sam and Joaquin fight mind-controlled soldiers until a missile hits, knocking Joaquin into the ocean. Sam pushes forward, preventing full-scale war. Later, the Japanese Prime Minister credits Captain America for saving his life. In the hospital, Bucky offers Sam comfort, but Sam admits he feels like everything is falling apart. Joaquin's injury, Isaiah still locked up, and Stearns slipping through his fingers. Bucky tells Sam that Steve didn't make a mistake giving him the shield. He did it because Sam was the only one worthy of being Captain America. Even with the serum, Steve couldn't always save those he loved. The burden was never easy, but it was worth carrying. With that, Bucky leaves for his flight. Meanwhile, Ross struggles with the gamma-radiated pills Stearns gave him, needing more to survive. Ross's attempt to make a deal is interrupted when Stearns triggers a cardiac arrest, killing the man. Ross finally reaches his daughter, Betty, apologizing for the White House attack and trying to rebuild their relationship. Ross then addresses the public, claiming the adamantium treaty is about to be signed. Stearns meets with Sam, revealing his final plan to control Ross through the pills. As Ross gives a public speech, Stearns is captured, leaving a chilling message. Now the world will see Ross for who he really is. Ross's rage takes over, transforming him into a monstrous beast. Captain America steps in, trying to reason with him, but Ross is lost in fury. The two clash in a brutal battle until reinforcements arrive. Sam takes one last shot at reaching Ross, reminding him of his humanity. Sam's words break through, and Ross starts to return to his human form. Later, Sam visits Isaiah in the hospital before hearing that Stearns is being transferred to a more secure facility. News outlets confirm the treaty has been signed, marking a step toward restoring order. At the raft, Ross, now imprisoned, speaks with Sam, who acknowledges Ross's decision to step down and shows respect for his honesty. Sam also tells him that Japan has accepted the treaty. Ross bluntly asks why Sam is there, and Sam replies that if they couldn't see the good in people, neither of them would be there. Elsewhere, Joaquin has recovered but remains down. He jokes about Sam's toughness, but Sam reminds him it's not about being perfect, but about not failing the people who believe in him. Joaquin admires Sam, seeing him as a true hero, and Sam tells him to stay ready. The world needs the Avengers. In a post-credits scene, Sam visits Stearns in his cell, where Stearns smirks and warns him that all heroes living in an illusion will soon face something greater, not just enemies, but others. The movie ends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. Stay tuned for the next adventure, because the world still needs heroes. See you next time.